So welcome to everybody for joining us with our Getting Started in Blackboard workshop. I'm Kenny Hirschmann, the manager of the Frankfort Center for Learning and Scholarly Technologies, and I have with me Dr. Gina Riley. Please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Gina Riley, program leader of the Adolescent Special Education program at Hunter.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Blackboard. I'm going to just go through some of the features and just kind of show you the environment a little bit. And then Gina will take you through one of her courses so you can see an exemplar of what a good course design in Blackboard looks like. And then, peppered throughout, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt us, or we'll hopefully have some time at the end as well for some questions. And then we have another 2 hours of office hours immediately following this. But before we jump right in, I just also want to put in a quick plug that we have a variety of programs coming up next week. Every day at 1 o'clock, it's the same link to get in. And next week we have Google Classroom, we've got Flipgrid, we have on Wednesday and Thursday, we're doing something a little different. It's a course design clinic on Wednesday in Blackboard and on Thursday in Google Classroom. So the one on Wednesday will be with me, and on Thursday it's with Marcus Artigliere. And the idea behind the clinic is that you can come in, we'll look at your course, and we'll make some suggestions, we'll go through, and other people may be there that will kind of give some feedback as well, and we'll try to get as many of them done as we can in the hour, and then we'll also have 2 hours after that of office hours to continue. And then on Friday, we have the second part of the Zoom session. And then we have some more the following week on Monday and Tuesday at 3 p.m. Monday is Book Creator. Gina will be back for that one, along with Liz Klein. And then on Tuesday, it will be Padlet with Dermot and Liz Klein. So let's jump right in. I'm going to share my screen. And if you have specific questions that you want us to tackle right off the bat, feel free to just let us know. Just unmute yourself and let us know that you have a specific question or there's something specific you'd like us to demonstrate. So this is the Blackboard home screen, and you get there by just going to bbhosted.cuny.edu. That's the shortcut. There are, I think, blackboard.hunter.cuny.edu is another page that you can go to, but I like to just use this, bbhosted.cuny.edu. You log in with your CUNY First ID, and it will take you to this screen. If you have courses set up in Blackboard, they will appear right here under My Courses. If you don't have anything here, that means you have nothing that you're already enrolled in, which means you might need to contact somebody if you're supposed to have something there. You can also request a course shell from, I think it's Blackboard at hunter.cuny.edu. That's the support that Hunter provides for Blackboard. I requested my own course shell to do sort of like a demo. I don't know what the policies are about that, but if you wanted to, for example, have a development shell where you start to create your course even before the course is available to you, you can do that, and then you can copy everything into your course later. So I'm going to go into my course, which is really just a demo course. I have a whole bunch of things in here. This isn't at all what your course would end up looking like, but this is sort of a mishmash of examples of things that you can do. So to start off, you'll notice here on the left-hand side, this purple area, this is your main course, in-course navigation. Up on top is sort of the Blackboard environment navigation, but you don't really need to worry about any of that. Your focus should be here on the left-hand side. Anything in this purple is completely customizable. So you can have it set exactly the way that you want it, using the language that you want, You don't have to stick with the default language. Below that purple is a dark gray or black, it looks like dark gray to me, section that's titled Course Management. This section only you as the instructor will see. Students do not see anything that's in here. This is sort of your control panel for Blackboard. It's where you find most of your settings and utilities. There's a couple of things here that you really want to be familiar with. One is Course Tools. And Course Tools is important because this is where you'll find all the various features that Blackboard offers. Things like announcements, blogs, discussion posts, Collaborate, which is the Blackboard equivalent to Zoom, your rubrics, tests and surveys and quizzes, journals, there's wikis, there's a variety of different tools that you have within this environment that you can take advantage of in your courses. We're not going to cover all of that today, but if you have questions about specific tools, I'm happy to address that for you. The Grade Center is another really important one that's in here. You can go directly into the full Grade Center from here, or you can look at only those items that need your immediate attention within the Grade Center. So you will need to go into the full Grade Center when you're configuring it, and we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of configuring your Grade Center right now. If you want that, there are a number of workshops that are being offered by the Center for Online Learning. That's Xiao. She offers Grade Center workshops. If there's enough people that in the School of Ed that want that, I'm happy to offer that as well. And we can also work with you one-on-one to set up and configure your Grade Center. But needs grading is really more of, as you're progressing through the semester, when students turn in work that needs to be graded, you click here, it gives you a shortcut to get into those particular items. And then packages and utilities is important if you're looking to copy materials from one course into another. The way this course copy function works is you have to be in the course with the materials that you're looking to copy, and then you copy them into the current course. So you have to go into your old course, hit course copy, select your new course and the items that you want to copy into it, if that's what you're looking to do. And again, it's not something I'm going to go into in too much depth here because, for one thing, I don't have a course to copy from. So I can't really fully demonstrate it. I might be able to be better doing that. But if somebody wants a little more information about that, I'll be happy to go over that.
I have one quick question, Kenny.
Yeah.
In case I go into the content area and doesn't appear the Hunter voice thread, where do I go? I forgot exactly.
Okay. So so that is in the customization and tool availability. So this is another one that's important because this is what gives you some of the functionality to customize the look and feel and the available tools. So you click on tool availability and it gives you this chart of what tools are within the environment and which ones are visible. So for example, if you're looking to utilize VoiceThread, so I think it's under Hunter VoiceThread. So Hunter VoiceThread, the only option that's available is here on the right, and the right column is the content area. And mine is available, so if I'm going to click into a content area, and under Build Content, you'll find Hunter VoiceThread as soon as that's enabled. If it's not enabled, you won't see this option here. Okay? Other questions before we move on?
What is VoiceThread?
That's a good question. it's a little bit outside the scope of what we're talking about here, but just really quickly, it's a tool that allows you to use video and audio to annotate presentations, slides. So you can have a slide, and that slide doesn't have to necessarily be like a PowerPoint slide. It could be a video, it could be a web page, it could be a document, and then it allows you the ability to create these threaded discussions using video, audio, or text. And when I say threaded, it means that you can directly respond to people. And it will give sort of like a nested or an indented view of that response. There are other tools that do similar things like Flipgrid that are not necessarily centered around a piece of content like VoiceThread is. So VoiceThread, the main feature of VoiceThread that differentiates it from other kinds of tools is that the centerpiece of your screen is some sort of content, rather than it just being focused on the discussion solely. Other questions? These are good questions. All right. So there are some other features in the customization, properties. There's a quick setup guide that can kind of walk you through the steps of setting up your course if you need that little extra hand holding. That I would just recommend that you look at these, click on them, click on the properties, see what the properties are that are available. You can, I think it's in properties. I guess not in properties. I think there's a place where you can customize the color schemes and that sort of thing. I'm not sure. They may have disabled that in this version.
Yeah, and also with properties, I think that's the place which is really actually important, that you make the course available to your students.
Yes.
Yes. So that's really important before you launch your class on Blackboard. You do have to make the course available to all students, and that's just under set availability under property.
So this is no by default?
Yeah, it's no by default.
And does Hunter or CUNY automatically make all courses available when the semester begins? No.
No. So you'll see a message on your Blackboard, and it'll be right near your course, and it'll say course is currently not available. And so to make it available for your students, you do have to set availability using the properties that set course availability.
Okay, that's an important point. I'm not aware of this.
But in doing so, you can make it available to yourself.
Well, you have availability anyway. So once you're on Blackboard, you can design the course without making it available to your students. And that's really where the set availability function comes from. So I can design and set up my course, but when I want to make it available to all the students in my class, I do have to go to properties and set the availability as yes.
Okay.
So once again, that's a really important point. It's down here under customization and then properties. So you'll want to make sure once you get your course all set up, you go in and make it visible to students.
What is teaching style? What is that?
Students. Teaching style. This is where you can customize the color schemes. You can change what the home page is. So right now the home page is in this course is set to course materials, but I could set it to any of these options. I'm not quite sure why those are those look like the only options that are actually visible. It will only give you the option to select something that's visible. I'm surprised it doesn't have announcements, but that might not be visible. That could be why.
Yeah, if you also want, I know Xiao and ACERT have been really open to, if you want another course style in terms of your menu, and there's like a couple of ways you can menu out, Xiao was able to do that for you. That being said, I mean, you'll see my course, I prefer the traditional menu. It's just the menu that most students know and are comfortable with, and so I keep the traditional menu.
Yeah. And it's important, consistency is important, and maintaining consistency within programs is also important. I'm a believer that a good instructional design will provide enough clarity for students alone. But if your program wants consistency in terms of your menu design, then you should stick with what the program suggests. Sharon, you had a question.
Yeah, I teach a seminar, and in the seminar there could be different sections. Um,
I'm sorry, say that again?
in the seminar, there are different sections. Some are student teachers, some are not student teachers, some are already working, but they're all with me when we're live in school.
Okay.
When I used to put up assignments in Blackboard, and when I wanted them to be able to come into each other's work, I had to combine the classes. I never learned to do it myself, so every time I did it, every time I wanted to do this every semester, I had to write to the help desk for them to do it. Is there a way that I could do it myself?
So you would have to have a number of students added into your course? Is that what you're saying?
I want to merge two classes.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a way to do that yourself. Not an easy way.
I still ask the help desk, Sharon, if I need to merge the two sections. So I'll just tell them the section number, the sections combined, because I, like you, teach that practicum class. And so I merge the sections together. But help desk will do that.
Okay.
But do it early because they're lagging. They have so many requests.
Also, bb at hunter.cuny.edu does it for you. If you email them, they'll merge the courses for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the Blackboard help desk at Hunter, and using that email address might be faster than using the regular help desk email because it's more direct.
What was that again?
bb at hunter.cuny.edu. bb standing for Blackboard. Blackboard at b, but the initials b as in boy, twice at hunter.cuny.edu.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Blackboard at hunter.cuny.edu also works, but I don't remember off the top of my head if I'm mistaking that. I'm trying to check right now.
Thank you very much. That's helpful.
Yeah, Blackboard at hunter.cuny.edu is also an option. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm gonna close those. So you'll see here in this course navigation, I have a lot of stuff. By default, you don't have those things. You can always add new items into this course navigation up here on the upper left-hand corner. And you have different things that you can add. You can add a new content area, and a content area is where you post readings, links, videos, all your course content will go into a content area. You can also post a module page. Module pages are a little weird. It's like a page full of different widgets. I don't find them very useful personally. I don't think we even really utilize most of those widgets as an institution or as a university. You can link to a tool. So that's, for example, linking to the discussion boards, linking to the blogs, linking to the wikis. Any of the course tools, you can link directly to that tool's main area. So I'll hit tool link as an example. I can link to blogs, and then I can select blogs as what I'm linking to. And when I submit, you'll see right here at the bottom, it appears. But it's hidden from students in this case because I did not make it available. And you can always click any of these little drop-down buttons. You click on them, it shows you what your options are. And you'll find that all throughout Blackboard, these little downward arrows in a gray box or a gray circle. Anytime you see that, that's like where you'll find your edit options, all the different options that you have. So I can show link and it becomes visible. If you see this little square with a line through it, that means this is hidden from students. You see it as the instructor. Students do not see that. Oops. The other items that you can create are a web link. So if you want to link directly to a website, any URL, you can do that. If you want to link to a Google Drive folder, you can do that. If you want to link to any resources within Google Drive or elsewhere, use web link. And then course link is linking to specific items within the course. So when you click course link, I don't think you'll see this pop up. But what happens is it pops up another window with a whole tree of everything that's in your course. So all your discussion forums, assignments, content pages, all of that. You can link directly to any of them by using course link. And then you just give it a name. Questions about that?
On WebLink, you can put a YouTube video on there.
Yes, you can link to a YouTube video. So all you're doing in WebLink is you're inserting a name and a URL. So that URL could be the URL to a YouTube video. It could also be a URL to a Flipgrid or some other tool that you're using. Now you'll notice that in mine, I have sections for weekly content, units. These are different methods of organizing your content. By default, you'll see some of these up here, not all of them, but you'll see, I think course announcements is a default one. I think course information is what you might see by default. I changed mine to syllabus. I think course materials, that's one, right? So if I click on course materials, this is what's called a content area. So we talked about a content area right here. This is a content area. And a content area can contain all sorts of different kinds of content. In this case, we have an assignment, we have a voice thread, we have a collaborate session, we have a discussion forum, and then a couple more things. But you can place content folders. So you can have, and Gina, this is probably the way that you organize it because you use a single content area for all your content. If you organize it in folders, you can create folders for each week or for each module or each unit, however you divide up the course. You can create a folder for each of those divisions and clearly identify what they are. Module 1, August 26th to August or to September, whatever the dates are. You want to be very, very clear, and Gina will demonstrate that in just a few moments. There are also content items that are text and attachments. This is where you can create items that for example, an overview of the module you can place here with your learning objectives, with the agenda for the week, with the assignments that they have, the readings that they have. Everything can be all listed out right here. But you can also integrate video and images and all sorts of things into this using this rich content editor. It's more than we can go over right now, but just know that the item type is how you create that, whereas the file type is specifically for attaching documents. PDFs, Word docs, PowerPoints, any type of document can be uploaded as a file, but they can also be attached to items. And then you have a number of other different item types. And maybe I'll let Gina talk about that when she gets into her course. Just before we jump into that, I'll point out also that there's these two other sections here. One is for assessments. This is where you find tests. Tests are, just, quizzes or exams. They all fit under the word test. Surveys, the same idea, but surveys are not graded. I don't know if they're anonymous. Do you know, Gina? Okay. We're not sure if they're anonymous, but they're definitely not graded. Then you have assignment. So if you want somebody to submit a paper, for example, you can have them submit an assignment. And a Turnitin assignment is the same idea, except it runs it through the Turnitin plagiarism detector once it gets submitted. There is another plagiarism detector built into assignment, which is called the Safe Assign, I think. I think you can just access it right in the assignment, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's Blackboard's version of plagiarism detection. But I think Turnitin actually has a much larger database. So if you want to do plagiarism detection, you should use the Turnitin assignment. And then under tools, you can add links to all the different tools that are in Blackboard. So, your discussion boards, blogs, collaborate sessions, and so forth. So before we jump over to Gina's course, does anybody have any questions?
Talk about plagiarism. It recognizes printed text from elsewhere. I mean, how did it pick it up?
Yeah, so Turnitin has a large database of content that comes from multiple sources, everything from Wikipedia to databases full of papers, student work that has been, so anytime a student posts to a Turnitin assignment, it saves a copy of their paper in their database to use for later checks, so that if, let's say, student A writes a paper and then 2 semesters later, student B copies that paper.
Well, hence the same paper.
or even parts of that paper. If that paper was first run through Turnitin, and then the second paper is run through Turnitin, it will detect that plagiarism there. It also searches the open web.
Because it seems like an infinity. I mean, think about how many published things there are on this world. I mean, how can
Yeah, Turnitin has hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of sources that they check everything against. I don't know how fast the check is, the plagiarism check is. It's not fast.
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, it does take a while.
Yeah, because it's checking against a huge database. Yeah.
It's worth it if you're assigning large papers with, heavy research-based papers.
Yes. Yeah. For curricula and lesson plans, you probably don't need that. All right.
Somebody could hand in somebody else's lesson plan. That's certainly
They could.
believable.
I don't know if Turnitin will detect that though. I don't know. I mean, unless you've already had previous students uploading their lesson plans, and then somebody plagiarizes from a previous student. Otherwise, I don't know how well it would be able to capture that.
I once had a student teacher hand in a lesson plan from a teacher's manual.
Yeah. I don't know if it would catch that. So you could try it. There's nothing. It's provided for you, so you can do whatever you want. You just have to make sure that if you want to use Turnitin for an assignment, you select a Turnitin assignment as opposed to this assignment. I don't see the peer review assignment in here. Maybe I don't have it set up for this course. But there is an assignment that allows peers to grade each other or to evaluate each other's work. I just don't see it for some reason. All right, so if there's no other questions, Gina, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Matt has a question. I don't use the survey function in Blackboard, so do the surveys get data analyzed? So do instructors get a report that provides stats regarding the responses?
There are some very light statistics that it will provide for you. I don't know if it does that on the surveys, like item analysis. I know on an exam you can have an item analysis. I don't know if it does that on surveys, but there are some light statistics that you can get. It's by no means appropriate for any sort of research, but for formative evaluation, for just kind of checking with students to see how the course is going, to get some feedback from students, that's what it's really appropriate for, not much else. To do, maybe at the beginning of the course, to do some diagnostic assessment, see how, where people are starting off, or to be able to find ways to match them up into groups. That's what the survey tool is really good for. Other questions? All right, let me stop sharing. And Gina, would you like to share? Oh, I did record, okay. I just panicked that I forgot to record. You're muted, Gina.
Welcome. So welcome to my classroom, everybody. And really, I do use Blackboard as my classroom space. So when you look at my Blackboard, this is really my classroom, albeit choice office hours and choice lecture. So you'll see that I have a very specific style. I use announcements completely, every single week, if not twice or 3 times a week. So I'll always make an introductory announcement. I'll always tell them what type of class this is. So this particular one was an intensive async class with choice lecture, where students had the choice to go on Zoom or listen to the recorded lecture that I gave them. And then I tell them what they might see each week. I always give them, I'm always available to support and encourage you. And I always give them my phone number. You can give them a Google number or a text so that they have another way of contacting me. I bring announcements out every week, every single Sunday when my week opens. So when my classroom opens, that announcement comes out, and it's really like clockwork. You'll see this one is posted at 8:27. Generally, if I don't post by like 9 a.m. on Sunday, I have students like, are you okay? What happened? Because I'm very consistent in my courses, and I think that that's really important. So I use the announcement tab for weekly announcements, as well as things like I posted your grades and comments, you're almost done, here's what you have to do finally, things like that. Again, my students see Blackboard as their landing space, truly as their virtual classroom. I use a very traditional Blackboard setup. So I use the announcements tab. I use the course information tab, and this is where I store my course syllabus, as well as any quizzes or tests students have to take. And the way you can put quizzes or tests on is you just go to the assessment tab, you build your test in that black portion or that dark gray portion, and then you just release the test under that assessments and test tab. And I'll show you how I do that. But course information, again, is syllabus, all the tests, final exam, things like that. Course materials is really where my modules start. So some people use folders. I happen to use items. So when I'm building content, I build an item, and that's just my style. You can also build a content folder. In the item, I always have an image just to sort of introduce the module. So you'll notice I'll always link an image, and it's easy enough to link. You'll notice in my classes, it's a very similar style. So I'll always have a lecture, a recorded lecture in my async class. I'll always have something visual, something auditory, and something kinesthetic that they can do. So in this one, it's week 1. So they're going through the week 1 lecture. They're going through, and then I give them a Vimeo link to the recorded lecture. So I record my lectures on Screencast-O-Matic, pop them on Vimeo. So there's one link, and I give them a Vimeo link. Then they read, they had a bunch of readings that first week, and then they have to discuss. Sometimes you'll see, again, you'll always see the image. Here's the reading, here's the lectures, here's the video, podcasts and articles, and then they discuss. And I always outline their tasks for the week. You'll notice, again, there's a consistency. Every single week in my classroom, it is very, very similar. So image, the audio to the lecture, there's an audio visual lecture, their readings, something like a podcast or a visual, and then I go on. So I'm very, very careful to make things consistent, and that to me is really important. Students also know right after they go to course materials, they've done all the work for the week in terms of reading and listening to lectures. They then can go on the discussion board, and you can link to the discussion board from your course materials, and they have discussion questions, and usually they have 3 every week. I answer every discussion board question. I really like discussion boards as a basis for learning, and I like intensive feedback. So you can see there was 30 people or 35 people in this class. There are 111 postings. And the reason for this is my discussion boards are highly participatory. I'm always telling them exactly what they have to do. So in this case, when we discussed dyscalculia, it was one main posting plus one response posting, and here's the due date. Again, you'll notice a very similar format for all my discussion boards. So it's the title of the discussion board, here's what they have to do, and here's when it's due. Again, the clarity and consistency is super important. Really interesting students are always, I do provide rubrics for my discussion boards, and I can show you some of those, but students are always extremely, extremely thorough in their research. They know that they have to reference and cite and things like that, and I'm always commenting. I comment on every single one. Students also know that I am always, they know when I'm on. So, and I think that's really important. We've talked about that in terms of instructor presence and instructor expectation. Students know when I'm going to be on Blackboard. Students know when I give feedback. They're always going to get feedback on Mondays, and they'll get short feedback every single other day except for Saturday. So they know all of those things. So I heavily, again, use announcements to announce the courses have opened, to announce the weeks and the modules have opened and what they have to do. I use that course information tab as a storage place for syllabus and exams. And I use the course materials tab as really, this is where their modules open, and the discussion boards. In terms of tools, if you go down to that dark gray part, what tools do I use? Again, announcements I use very, very highly. During spring, the spring semester, when COVID happened, we decided to do, everyone was like scrambling regarding remote learning. So in another class, a class did a blog, and we all participated in the blog. And blogs are easy enough to set up. You go into the blog, you display all blog, and then you create a posting, and students go ahead and they post on it. But creating a blog is not hard. So that's something that you can totally do. And again, in this time of like remote learning and students were scrambling for resources, we created a blog with those resources. The tests, I create my own tests in tests, surveys, and pools. Tests are really easy to create on Blackboard, and I love them because they're self-graded. So Blackboard grades them themselves. So you'll see I create a bunch of different versions of tests. So if you look at a final exam, I'm going to edit this, and you could build a test. And the way you would do it is you would go to test, you would build a test. So this is our sample test. If you had a description, description is here, instructions are here, and you would submit. Then they ask you to create the type of question you want. The nice thing about Blackboard is it gives you lots of options for questions. There are essays, there are multiple choice, matching, multiple answer, short answer, true, false. So whatever your heart desires, you have many, many options for questions. You can also, we'll create a question. And you'll see it's super, super easy. Here's question number 1. And we're gonna ask, are you enjoying this session? And we're just gonna answer numbering. I like Arabic numerals, and it's gonna change to the Arabic numerals. And then we're just gonna put number of answers here. Since there's only 2, multiple choice, you have to do 4. So I'm gonna do 4. I'm gonna do yes. I'm gonna do no, maybe.
Dad, do I have your permission to go in Savannah's room because?
And why are you asking? Okay, and then whatever the correct answer is, I'm gonna plop, and I just put no. And then we're going to just submit. And once you submit, you have that test question done. So creating a test or quiz on Blackboard is really super easy. And I will say that in this time of, if you're doing an async course, quizzes, knowledge checks are something you might want to integrate into your async course. I took an async course as a student this semester. There was weekly knowledge checks, and I actually liked them. They didn't feel like assessments. They just felt like, okay, what did I get out of this week? They were very low, points. They were 5 points, and it was really an impressive way to sort of just eke out the main ideas for the week. So knowledge checks are a nice thing to add into your fall classes. I will be adding them into mine. But again, for this class, it was an intensive summer. I do a final exam and a quiz. You'll notice that I'm very specific with regards to discussion boards. And I just want to check, is anyone specifically interested in discussion boards? If you are, you can, use the icons. If you're not, don't worry about it. Okay. No worries, I won't go into it, but I will say that if you're providing questions on a discussion board, it is important to provide multi-layered, open-ended questions so that not everyone has the same answer. So you'll notice I am very careful in the way I construct discussion boards. You'll notice that I'm always creating those multi-layered questions. So again, very, very simple style, but my students really feel like, hey, this is my classroom, right? I do an adjunct choice lecture via Zoom. I know some people like live lectures, so I do a complete choice lecture along with the recorded lecture that I give them on the Vimeo. And that seems to work in terms of content, about half and half. Half people listen to the recorded lecture, do the course totally async. Half my students tend to just come onto my choice lecture. I also, of course, do office hours, and I do not do those via Zoom, or I do those via Zoom, but you could also do them via Blackboard Collaborate. So I will stop the share and take questions, and then I'll show you something else. Any questions? Yeah, Sharon.
Maybe I have a different version of Blackboard, but I never had it where I had the title and then the description of the question side by side as you had it. Was that something you had to do yourself, or was that just
on the discussion board? Yes. Yeah, I think all of the Blackboard forums are the same. So you should have like a create forum. You're putting the name of the discussion board, yes, right? And that's where you're just gonna put, that's like the name of your discussion board, when it's due, and right, then your description, but it should come side by side. I've never seen it any other way in terms of display.
Do you post after everybody else has posted, or how do you give feedback if you wanted to?
So I give feedback to everyone. And again, you don't have to do this. That's just my style. I'm on there just to manage, just in terms of workload management. I'm on Blackboard probably about 30 minutes a day, just monitoring discussion boards, answering questions. So I give feedback throughout the week, and then everyone knows if they didn't get any feedback throughout the week, or if they waited till Saturday or Sunday to post, then Monday they will always get full grades and feedback.
So, but you post a response to specific students? Is that how I'm asking for the technique or the method?
Sure. So my method, again, you totally do not have to do this, is my method is I post a response to everyone. So you'll see, like, I'll definitely always, even if a discussion's going on, I'll post.
So you're hitting reply in theirs and then, okay.
Yeah, I'm hitting reply in theirs and posting a response. Some people do every 5. Some people do just a general, like, this is what I've seen on the discussion boards this week. Here's some interesting facts. Take a look at these postings. So you don't have to respond to everyone. However, I will say, in terms of best practice and in terms of student feedback, students in an async course always feel like I'm really there, because I am just constantly posting feedback, and I am acting as the instructor because I do want them to see an instructor presence. But there are different ways to have instructor presence. You don't have to do that.
So one way is to hit the reply, and the other one is just to make your own posting if you were summarizing what you saw.
Exactly. So if you were summarizing what you saw, you just want to create a posting. And if you were just replying, you would just reply. And normally I just reply. Sometimes if it's a big, thick posting, I will copy paste their posting and comment within, like in color. So sometimes that's helpful, but otherwise I will just reply. And again, this is a way for students to become involved in the discussion. You see student to student interaction. You also see instructor to student interaction. So I do love discussion boards. And the only reason is because for me, because my classes are always so like Socratic / discussion based, it's really a great place for my students to feel like they have a classroom. And I really feel like Blackboard is wonderful because it's more organized in terms of discussion board postings and how you can reply to each one. So I love Blackboard. Again, this is my classroom.
I would also just point out that to some extent, it also is dependent on the size of the class. For large courses, you may not necessarily be able to respond to every post. It depends on how much time you're looking to put into this. But having summaries or breaking the discussions up into groups can also help to minimize some of that work. So I used to teach at the University of Colorado, and one of my courses, it wasn't terribly big. It was like about 26 students, but I ended up having, breaking them up into groups of about 4 people, and each group would submit a summary of their discussion for that week. And so I only had to read the summaries, and that gave me insight into how the group was thinking, and I could respond to that.
I also love Blackboard, because of the Grade Center, and I think the Grade Center is really easy. It's very intuitive. So if you look at like the full Grade Center of I love how it just gives, like at the end, I was very careful with my points and they got a final grade, right? So I think the Grade Center aspect of Blackboard is fantastic. And that's really a big plus, right? You'll see the quizzes, there was varied grades, Blackboard grades the quizzes. I tend to use you get full credit or you get no credit. And let me just show you a sample rubric so that you can see that. I also have a 4 or 5 point rubric that I use, but I tend to use rubrics when I use Blackboard, especially if I'm heavily using discussion board, because it's a really interesting and easy and formal way to grade. So here's you get credit, you get your 3.75, or you get no credit. And so here's my discussion board rubric. And generally, my students aim for that full credit, right? They really do. They go ahead and they do that full credit. And that's why you'll see a lot of full credit discussion boards. Also, I love that on the discussion board, students can see each other's assignments, because I think it gives a little sense of competition. Like, okay, this posting was so good. I sort of want to do exactly that. So I'll do a full credit or no credit rubric. And then let me share another example of a rubric that my colleague and I both use. And this is a 4-point rubric. And this is a little bit more intense in terms of, is it a provocative discussion? Is it a substantial discussion? Is it a superficial discussion? Or is it an incorrect or no feedback discussion? So all of these things are really important to have if you are using discussion boards as the basis for your Blackboard course. And this also applies to Google Classroom. Any questions?
Do you allow the students to respond to anyone? Do you assign them? Okay. Do you find that, because I tried that one year and I found that most people responded to the first person who posted?
Yeah, no, so I'll incentivize the response post. And I think that's one thing also, if you want a lot of conversation happening in your class, sometimes you have to incentivize it. And so I'll incentivize the response post, but no, students are not, you'll see students are really varied in their responses and they're reading other each other's responses. It's also one thing I put in the syllabus, right? I want my class to feel like a class, whether we're sync or async. So it's really important that you're always reading others' discussion postings, that you're responding to those that interest you and those that intrigue you, and not just giving a response to give a response. So that's something I put within my syllabi, and my online syllabi in a Blackboard async course tends to be very detailed with rubrics and with notes specific to Blackboard, because it's really important that my students see that Blackboard as their classroom and not just an adjunct to their classroom. Any other questions? All right, so I'll have Kenny do any last things that he wants to announce, but thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much, Gina. That was really, really wonderful, really helpful.